Welcome to Real Estate Mindset. How's that, Travis?
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
Okay, go. You do yours then.
Okay, I'll do mine, you guys. Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. This video is going to be absolutely bonkers.
Bonkers.
It is going to be bonkers. I have a special guest colleague and friend, Melody Wright, with us today. And what we're going to do today, guys, is we're going to break down this article. Let me show the viewers real quick, Melody. We have some breaking news, actually. Well, could be breaking news. This could be a problem that's been happening for quite some time. Melody's going to talk more about that. But apparently right now, the FDIC has issued concerns and warnings for pretty big companies, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and none other than the redheaded stepchild of all of this, which is Citigroup. So we're going to dig into this, guys. Melody's going to break this down as well as far as her perspectives. But before I go into this a little bit more, let me remind you, if I may, who my friend and colleague is. This is Melody Wright. She is a writer, an investigative journalist. If you guys want more of her content, if you guys want to even support us, inflation's hurting us as well. We are not rich people, are we, Melody? But if you want, I'm not signed in, okay? I don't know why I'm not signed in, but go to her Substack, you guys. Read her writings. She also has a YouTube channel, melodywright.com. I consider you at this point, Melody, quite frankly, family, the kind of family that I want around.
Same.
There's family that you don't want around.
Yeah.
Before we begin, is there anything you want to say before we kind of jump into the article and break it down, Melody?
No, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Travis. And I feel the same about you. Let's get started.
All right, well, let me read this up. And what I'm going to do, Melody, is I'm going to read a little bit of this just for our viewers so we can kind of all be on the same page. Now, basically, this will be linked to my description. This is from USA Today. This came out last night, June 21st. This is saying U.S. bank regulators ordered Bank of America, horrible Citigroup, we'll come back to Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan Chase on Friday, today, Saturday, to bolster plans for how they could safely resolved in bankruptcy. And FDIC escalated its concerns about Citi's blueprint. So I really want to kind of understand, like, what are they talking about? What is this whole, will thing, things like that. But I wanted to scroll down here. And again, I think Melody's going to do a way better job at breaking this down. But a couple of things here, guys. Following the 2007-2009 financial crisis, big banks, okay, like the ones I just named, were ordered to regularly submit plans to regulators, and this is the important thing, detailing how they could safely unwind without requiring the Fed put, or rather, government assistance. Those plans are assessed by regulators for credibility and feasibility. Well, apparently the bank runs that we had in 2023 weren't doing this, or rather the FDIC reviewed their plans and said there's no problem. So, let's go back, Melody. That's the article, guys. I'm going to kind of save our breath and really kind of just, what does all of this mean? What is a will? What is the concern here? Is this a new problem, existing problem? Melody, take it away.
Yeah, so this is one of those things, Travis, where unfortunately I have too much information. So it's probably not going to make any sense. But the wills were started after the GFC, that, around Dodd-Frank, Basel III, you basically, you had this thing called a stress test that they would do. The frequency would depend on your size. For the big banks, the living wills, and the stress tests, I believe, are every other year. But essentially what it was supposed to be is, okay, if you were under stress, and typically what would happen, and I remember the very first stress test we submitted at Ally, which Ally was the redheaded stepchild of the last crisis, but they were known as GMAC at the time. Well, actually, they were known as Ally. They changed their name. That's what our TARP money went toward, was a rebranding campaign. But anyway, and that, yeah.
You talk about Indy. You remember IndyMac? You remember World Save? You remember those 12 Mac calculators that World Savings? I love those calculators. That was before we had, it was easy to calculate mortgage payments. We could take those little World Savings calculators. Anyways, cool calculators. The bank is no longer in business, and that was a bank that was around for 100 years.
Right, and honestly, so basically, we were all the big banks the top 5 that got into all the trouble with the AG settlement, also the consent order, which that were a few more, like 13 and others along the way. But really, us 5 were the ones in the hot seat. And that was your usual suspects, Citi, JP Morgan, Bank of America, us, and Chase. And so we were all trying to figure this out together. There was actually something called a consortium where we would meet and talk. But that first living will, that first stress test was a total cluster. We were all trying to figure it out. We couldn't figure it out. But over the years, and what a living will is okay, if something were to happen to you, if you were to go into bankruptcy, and the stress tests give you certain scenarios, like it was widely talked about that the stress tests incorporated losses on commercial real estate the last go round. So in the most recent stress test, I think there was something around mortgage. But the fact is like they give you the scenarios, then you have to say how you're going to respond to them. And the living will is actually, it's like, how would you, if something happened, you had to go into bankruptcy, how would you have an orderly exit? And in this case, what they're saying is that Citi was deficient in that regard. They named some other deficiencies with Chase, Bank of America, but and honestly, I think they just did that to look like they weren't picking on Citi. Because here's the thing, and my point, long-winded point, is that we all figured out how to pass the stress test. We all figured out how to pass the living wills. And we have all heard over and over and over and over and over again that the big banks are fine. After the regional bank crisis, even though they had all these unrealized losses, they have all this derivative exposure, the big banks are fine. That's what Yellen tells us. That's what Powell tells us. So why are they telling us this now? And that is the most important thing about this story.
So let me recap what you're saying for the viewers, and that you brought us exactly where I wanted to go next, which is, why now? Is it because there's something behind the scenes going on now with Citi? Is Citi the new Washington Mutual? But I'll get there in a minute. You guys, so when you read this article, understand that a living will, or this is the same thing essentially, and correct me, Melody, if I'm wrong, is the same thing as a stress test. And a stress test is basically, just for a lack of better words here, if there's something like a recession and it puts turmoil on the banking, the bank, this is a plan that the regulators would need to review that basically shows these regulators that these banks can get out of that distress and not need a bailout. Is that correct, Melody, so far?
Technically not the same, but yes. But yeah, the idea is the same. Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward now we're wondering, because this has been going on, obviously they put these plans since 2007, 2009. We have administration, we have headlines, amazing economy, a labor market's great. So that brings us to our next thing, which is, why are they now concerned? And you alluded a little bit to something I want to talk to you more about. Do you think they're saying this now because Citi is about to crash on their buttocks? Why now, Melody?
Likely, and they might be, they might be the sacrificial lamb of this cycle, meaning that they really probably shouldn't have made it through the last one. A lot of blanks probably shouldn't have, but I think they might be the sacrificial lamb because if you think about it, I think that if anyone tries to bail out the big banks, that is when I think the people will take to the streets. They did last time. That was why everyone was so concerned about not calling SVB a bailout, right? And so I think what they're trying to set up is everybody get ready for when they seize Citi assets, and they will be the sacrificial lamb because they all have this exposure. The derivatives, what's fascinating to me is we're seeing more and more articles on derivatives. We're seeing more and more articles on ETFs. At the same time, we're seeing these thing called failure to deliver, where people are not making their commitments in the treasury markets. There's a lot going on, and it all comes around collateral shortage. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they don't have the cash that they've pledged. And that's
Our cash.
exactly what happened. Right. Well, right. That's correct. In a lot of cases, that's correct. Our cash, because they have our deposits. They are gambling with our deposits. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So I think that this is a story to get us prepared for the takeover of city. And I could be wrong about this, but I guarantee you it's been talked about. But the fact that they have a little slap on the hand, like they talk about with Chase and Bank of America, I mean this is how you do this kind of psyops. Is you make it look like it was a fair assessment and everybody has a little trouble, but we got one bad actor and they're going to be the ones that are going to be in trouble. And so I think this is just more mainstream media, leading us to a story and preparing us for what I believe is probably going to be a takeover of city.
Do you think it's possible, Melody, being the expert you are on many things, but specifically behind the scenes, inner workings behind the scenes, do you think that it's possible that, Chase, Bank of America, that they're selling their bad debt to Citi because they know Citi is about to get bailed out? And so if I can sell my bad debt to Citi and Citi's already going to get bailed out, let's just load our bad debt onto Citi. Do you think things like that happen behind the scenes?
Oh, so I can't say if that's happening, but do things like that happen? 100%. I mean, these backroom deals, the Washington Mutual deal, all of that, there's some pretty interesting techniques that they use to make this all work. And there's some unhappy players last time around because of those deals that were made with the government. But yeah, I could see that. I could see, I think you're alluding on purpose or don't, but the whole good bank, bad bank idea. So after the initial days of the GFC, all we talked about was NewCo. We're spinning off, the bad debt. We're going to create a new company.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put everything off. And so Ally was going to take the good part of the mortgage company and spin off all the bad stuff. And you can still have arrangements with that bad bank. And so, and it can take on the loss, it can help hide certain things. Ultimately, that's not the way we went. We ultimately went into bankruptcy. But I think what you're probably seeing play out is we know that the government and banks are very interconnected. And so likely, to your point, Citi's going to be the bad bank of this cycle. And and it could be, to your point, that there were, because, Chase, Bank of America, they've all been doing these credit risk transfers.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that this has been in play for some time.
That's what I wanted to really talk about, right? Because we got Basel III. We've been following Basel III. We've been following the health, you way more than me, of these banks. So, last night, I think it was about 5 p.m. last night on June 21st, the Fed says all of a sudden they're now worried, basically saying like, hey, we're worried about these banks because I take it as a citizen as we are concerned about bailing them out. Like, here's the 4 banks. You may not know which one is going to be bailed out, but one of these 4 are going to get bailed out. It's probably Citi, if I'm not mistaken. Citi is the top bank for consumer credit cards. Is that correct? Do you know that for sure? I don't. I think Citi is one of the number 1 for consumer credit card loans.
They definitely have a very big credit card program. I'll quickly Google while you're talking. Keep going.
Now, the reason I'm suspicious, Melody, and I think possibly similar to you, is, in 2023, Jerome Powell went to Congress, and I think it was February of 2023. And Jerome Powell to Congress and the entire world said, don't worry, the banks are fine. The banks are resilient. And a couple weeks later, in March of 2023, he set up, the Bank Term Funding Program, which was a mini bailout. Sorry, Danielle. It was a mini bailout over the weekend. And
Exactly.
I'm just at a loss for words. I mean, this shouldn't be happening, Melody.
I agreed. Agreed. And you know what's really, well, anyway.
No, just take it away, girl.
So Citi is number 3. It's number 3 behind Chase and American Express, but still 12% of credit card market. That's huge. That's huge, huge. So, yeah.
And my point, what I was trying to make is like, okay, that happened last time in Congress, and now all of a sudden they're saying they're worried about these banks. I don't know how is that not a signal, like you were saying, to the market that like something's happening behind the scenes. We're trying to give you an update. We're trying to prepare you, but I mean, I think it's safe to say of those 4 companies, Melody, I mean, it's Citi that's going to be the next Washington Mutual. And I use Washington Mutual just for the viewers because Washington Mutual was this massive bank, huge bank.
It was my bank.
It was my bank too. I had a WAMU account. It was my first checking account. Was a WAMU account, Washington Mutual, and huge bank. They got shut down. They got shut down during the GFC, and a lot of people didn't think that could fail, Melody, right? And the bank wasn't able to save WAMU. But now I'm looking back, I'm like, I wonder how much bad debt was piled on WAMU before they were, taken under. I mean, do you think that Citi is like the 2020 version of WAMU? Potentially.
I mean, I definitely think you've just been hearing enough about their trouble. And again, Friday night, this story, the week before the 4th of July holiday, you've got so many people on vacation. So this is one of those, I think this is a preparation story. And, I don't honestly think it's a warning. I think it's a preparation story, getting people prepared, but also not trying to roil markets by, doing it in this time period. Very similar Friday night, the FHA announcement on the Freddie closed-end second liens. So, this is the timing of these. It's important to note.
Where do you think, if you were to kind of brainstorm a little bit, on the video, so everyone's watching you brainstorm, that's not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where do you think the predominant amount of the distress that the regulators are reviewing anyways and warning, they're not telling us exactly what, but they're giving us a warning. I mean, come on, man. Like, what is it? Where do you think the distress is coming from? No money from consumers, the lag effects.
It's the shadow banking. It's the shadow markets. I mean, it's all these derivatives. It's this gambling. It's this casino where, you don't have to post collateral, for the trades that you're making, or you go rehypothecate it. And so you basically post collateral to several different places at the same time. It's all these tricks and these derivatives. You can't truly find the value on, but they're off balance sheet securitizations a lot of the time, the CLOs. I mean, it's just all this shadow market debt that is way bigger than the GFC. And that is what happened during the GFC. It wasn't subprime blew up the system. It was collateral. Lehman did not have collateral to post for his obligations because Chase said, no more room at the end. You're done. And the minute that happens to one of these big actors, again, we will have an incoming credit event. And it could be, I mean, I think that if you study game theory, and, wish Jack was here, we could put on our tinfoil hats, but if you study this, they're always trying to accomplish multiple things at once. And so these stories, we don't exactly know what's going on, but it could have several different purposes. The biggest purpose, in my opinion, is just preparing what is going to happen in terms of if they do take control of Citi.
Essentially what you're saying is, if I were to dumb it down, the system's broken. Correct. Is that correct?
Yeah, the system is very broken.
In this regard, understanding the broken system, understanding a few of the banks at play here, what do you think happens next with Citi? How do you see that playing out?
We're probably going to have a lot of congressional testimony. I don't know. We'll probably have some show trials or whatever, where they parade Frazier out and, And it's just, how could you let this? I mean, I'm sure we're about to see some high theater. So, get your popcorn.
I wonder if that's distracting us from the actual broken system.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I'm sure Warren will yell at her and, whatever. It's just the system is so all we're playing with is fake money. I mean, it's just, it's monopoly on steroids. It's just everything you can think about has been like hyper financialized. And so this is the game. But the game is run by confidence. And the minute that confidence starts to waver, someone will go under. They will not be able to turn around and make their counterparty whole. And it will be a big actor. So other stories we're seeing right now in the press are around these ETFs and these heartbeat trades, where there was a big heartbeat trade on Friday where $8 billion kind of went into one and then came out the next day. They do this to avoid taxes, but just one of those where if somebody's doing a heartbeat trade, but all of a sudden that money gets locked up, that would take the system down. There are just so many things that could take the system down. You and I were talking about this, Travis. It's impossible to keep up with everything that's going on because there are so many vulnerabilities in the system, and it's all around these off-balance sheet products, these derivatives, these securitizations, and it's the addiction to the gain on sale that you get when you deliver these out into the secondary market and you get that money, and it just becomes very I remember sitting, I was at GMAC for earnings, and it was a year where we were going to either announce our bankruptcy. We didn't that year. We found out that we were going to get TARP money. It was a last minute. I mean, it was crazy times, but I was sitting on kind of the executive floor, and one of the executives came out and started telling me about what they used to do at Bank of America. And what they would do is, they'd look at net income for the month. It'd be the day before the last day of the month. And they would be like, oh, crap, we're coming in short. We need to do some securitizations. And this is the scene in The Big Short where they're going to the brokers and say, just give me all your crap. I don't care what it is. Just give it to me. And they just pile all that into a securitization, deliver it to the agencies, get the rating, boom, out the door, and that padded earnings. And so everybody has started operating like that because they don't actually invest in their business or people anymore. They don't produce anything anymore. They just enrich shareholders. So it's a house of cards, and it will fall. When is the question?
I don't like it. Because this is our money. This is our money as consumers. They're taking our money. Citi took. Well, I don't use Citi, but whoever banks with Citi, the depositors are taking their money and they're gambling with bad debt. It's our money. And then they mislead us and manipulating us by doing these fancy transactions. Let me do this over here so that their numbers look good so that we continue to buy shares of their company. This whole thing seems to me like it should be illegal. It's un-American, Melody.
Yeah, even the people at BlackRock, like when they came in, and I had to explain what notional value is. They didn't understand these off-balance sheet derivatives. Nobody understands this crap. Like 3 people in the world understand this crap. And it's so complicated because even if you're like the fund manager in The Big Short that did the CDOs, the collateralized debt obligations that have largely been replaced by CLOs, they don't understand. They know their little part. And that's it. And that is honestly what's also happened in the financial world is that we tried to Henry Ford everything, meaning it was going to be an assembly line, and everyone lost knowledge of like, if you do X, then this is of basic cause and effect. And it's in mortgage specifically, you will not find anyone who can tell you what life alone profitability is. You will be able to find what the cost of service is, what the cost of origination is, what you might make on your origination, what you might make on your servicing, but no one looks at end to end. If they did, they wouldn't be in the business, period. It's about moving money. That's all it's been like that. Yeah. I think really since securitization started in the 80s, I honestly think that's where everything started going off the rails.
Well, the rich get richer because the system's designed to make the rich get richer. Let me ask you, Melody. So I'm sure there's some people that feel a little bit like me, that they're just completely disgusted with banks, that they want to debank, but they're kind of afraid. Where do we put our money? Some people think that the solution to debanking, I'm not one of these people yet. I need more information. I don't trust what I hear, but then some people swear by it. Do you think crypto's the answer?
Unfortunately, I wish it was the answer. I wish that it was the answer. But I have good colleagues that believe in it, and I hope that they're right. But unfortunately, its beginnings are very suspect. We know that the government is getting involved. We know that a central bank digital currency is on the menu. We know that they've gone after certain actors in the crypto world. And honestly, I think they've got everybody's number. And so what they could do is a bait and switch is they could say, everybody's kind of gotten used to the idea of crypto. And so they say, okay, this whole crypto sector is just, and they've already said this, it's just gangsters and and criminals. But we, your government, we're going to do it responsibly. And by the way, we're going to buy just because we want to, we're going to put $500 in your account to start. And that is how, again, you will lose more control of your life. Sorry, that was probably.
It's depressing. It's depressing because I want to feel like my lender, right? Chase or whoever, right? I want to feel like I want to believe that they're good people. They care about me. They're making sound investments. They're helping the community around where they bank. But the reality is they're not. The reality is they're flooding Wall Street with all of our money, and then they're getting loans on our money, and then more credit on our money, and they're just making more money out of thin air. And then I wake up one day and I'm like, whoa, where'd America go? I don't remember this. I don't remember so much hate in the world, so much division. I remember going outside, playing basketball, not tennis, because I wasn't that rich. I was always jealous of the tennis. Played handball, though, with my hand. You ever play that? It was super fun. Handball, like a madman out there.
I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. We played all those games.
This just happened too fast, Melody. I think this happened way too fast for my comfort. And I think that as a result of it happening so fast, I don't think it's going to work. I think that, people say there's these evil geniuses, but I think people are stupid. I think what we're seeing is people trying to work us over that are just stupid. And this whole game and dog and pony show is coming to an end. I think it's the stupidity that makes it feel like conspiracy. But then again, there's like fact that people say are conspiracy as well. So when all is said and done, Melody, what the hell do we do about all this?
We just worry about what we can do. We can't, I can't solve this problem. I can't, but what I can do is make different decisions and make decisions to protect myself. That is what I can do. And that, and not be indebted, not be in a situation where I look at that $500 from the Fed and say, please, sir, thank you. Give me some more. I want to be in a position that I don't need to take their money. I don't need it. I can operate without it if that is the way that we go. And people will tell you that there's really only two ways out of a crisis or a situation that we're in right now, where so many people have left the workforce, where we're in declining demographics, and we have this much fraud in the system. Typically, it's either financial repression or it's war. And at this point, I think we're heavy already into financial repression, but CBDC is probably the last mile there, as well as kind of maybe universal basic income. But right. And so, these are the things, guys. This is just, if you let yourself think about the future, it's kind of how it just makes sense of what is next, or war, right? And we are definitely gearing things up on that front, and take your pick. China, Russia, are we going to get involved in the Middle East? So it's, a lot of people would say we've been at war for a year, or even longer, because it's a hidden war. It's kind of, Pippa Malmgren calls it a cold war in hot places, or hot war in cold places, something like that. but it's a different kind of warfare. They're cutting cables. Like they just cut cables. I can't remember which Asian nation, I think, but you know, they do things like this as opposed to getting the tanks and rolling them, you know, across land. And then cyber warfare, like, you know, we haven't even talked about what's happening in the auto industry right now with that, you know, cyber attack on the dealership software that's brought that industry to a halt, which could actually create a credit event. Because what
a hacker.
a hacker. Because here's the thing, there is somebody on the other side that was banking on getting that loan to sell it to the marketplace and make money. And as that does not happen, that is a big problem. Like when NationStar got hacked, that was a huge problem because they were one of the biggest buyers in the mortgage-backed security market. In kind of the loan purchase market. But this is a whole industry, what's happening with auto. And so this, 1.3 trillion, I think, is the size of this industry. This could turn into a credit event as well.
You know, I'm
sorry.
I get frustrated. You know, I feel helpless. Is why I feel helpless. I feel like they already know my actions. There's nothing I could do. But the reality is that's just in my head. There's plenty I can do in my household. Let me ask you this final question, and we'll wrap this up here. The FDIC, according to the article, according to what we're reading here, it warned us. This straight up said, hey, this is the FDIC. We are worried, especially about Citi, but also Chase, you know, BFA. Melody, should people right now take this warning, FDIC warning, and go debank all of their money from Chase?
I cannot say, I don't think that's, I mean, I cannot say what you should do. And I certainly don't want to cause a bank run, but you have to make decisions. What I do is diversify. Don't have all your money or eggs in one basket. Like, you know, also you might think about owning hard assets like gold and silver. I mean, again, this is not investment advice. This is kind of, I looked at my life, and diversification is the best strategy because, as you can see, all across the system, there is risk. And so, you know, I think putting all your eggs in one basket never works out, never. And so you just kind of have to look at the different risks, weight it for yourself. If you have a deposit over 250,000 at any of these banks, then yeah, you need to be doing something about that, that cash that's over that insured deposit amount. I'm stopping now because I'm thinking, did they actually change that rule?
I don't think so. Like, I remember hearing whispers like they changed it to 500, but I didn't see anything official. But it was 250,000, which means if you have more than 250,000 in one of these FDIC insured banks, that's all you got, unless you're Oprah or, you know, like they bailed out all the rich people in 2023. You know, did you find it? I think it's 250. I'm pretty sure unless they passed a new law.
It definitely was 250 before, but I'm just wondering if here. So, however, if there are more than 5 beneficiaries, the FDIC coverage limit for the trust remains 1.25 million. It looks like they didn't
change that. Yeah, I think it was just rumor, if I'm not mistaken. Which, I mean, I don't see why it would matter because they bailed out everyone on that last one. So I mean, even if they say 500,000, they could just change that over the weekend with Jerome Powell in the room. So it doesn't really matter, does it? And also what doesn't matter is the FDIC doesn't even have the money to insure even one bank failure. So the FDIC is just an illusion to make us feel better as consumers, to give our money to banks that spend our money like crazy and recklessly. And really, again, FDIC is just so that you guys feel better. That's it. Just, oh, here, FDIC is going to insure you. They don't have the money, guys. They didn't bail out the bank. The FDIC didn't step in. The Fed stepped in because the FDIC didn't have the money. I got to tell you something, Melody. Let's end us out of here. I want to tell you how I feel, and I want you to see if you can drum up through your amazing mind, your amazing heart, and your soul. And I want us to end with some hope, with what people can really take away, the positive spin on this. But I need to tell you how I feel. I feel helpless. I feel like this is just in my head. and I will conquer this, but I'm hypothetically, and for my viewers, I feel all alone. I feel like this is an impossible battle to win. I'm very confused. I'm even scared. I don't know what to do with my money. I'm worried, Melody. I don't know how my children are going to be raised now. I feel like everyone's out to get me. That's how I feel. And I know if I feel this way, that there's a percentage of people that feel that same way. What can you tell us, Melody, to make us feel a little bit better about the horrible crap that's going on?
We have to create community, Travis. Like the way I get through this is by talking to people like you, my friends and colleagues that, have experiences that, are similar, but also different, but, can relate to what I'm saying, can understand what I'm saying. And so create community versus, what's happening now with algorithms, social media, they're trying to create division, but get involved locally, meet your neighbors, because Travis, you can feel that way that everybody's out to get you. And then you get in your car and you go to the grocery store and you're wearing that, right? Like, and then somebody does something like they don't mean to, but they cut you off. And then you're just like angry, 'cause they're taking advantage of me.
Horrible.
But here's the thing, we have to forgive before it even happens, right? We have to try to work on forgiving before anyone has even done the transgression, and going out. And something, I know I'm going to sound like I don't know, like crazy lady, but what I do often when I'm about to go out into the grocery store to place, because guys, I don't know about you, but these trips have become stressful. Like there's always some encounter, right? Whether it's it's just always something.
Yeah.
So I just have to tell myself, right? Like you go to a restaurant these days, you don't get served, or
It's like,
it's just,
I just spent $60 on that steak. Get that kid over here and fill my water up.
right. There's just all this anger, right? And so what I tell myself, and I know again, I'm gonna sound stupid, but before I go to somewhere like the grocery store, I'm just like, my goal is to bring joy to others, and to find joy. And the thing is that I know if I bring joy to others, that I will find joy. And, like when I'm hanging out, I was telling you about these little kids that, I'm kind of helping out this summer. When I'm hanging out, they're like, you say hello to everybody. Why do you do that? That's so embarrassing. And I'm just like, because we have to start talking to one another again. We have to start relating to one another. We have to start, coming together to fight, whether, like you say, whether it was intentional, whether it was ineptitude, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So we have to have that forgiveness and go find community, because together we're better. If I had not found you, Travis, and really you found me, right? You found me, and then you put me in touch with Jack. I mean, in many ways, you helped save my life. And because if you are in this alone, it can become a hell and it can feel very overwhelming, but you're not in it alone. And that's what I think you and I are both trying to say to everyone. You are not alone. You are not alone. And there is community out there. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Just because you don't like one thing that Travis and I say, and you don't want to hear me yelling at you for drinking Starbucks, I get it. But just ignore that part. Ignore it. And see what else I'm trying to say, because I'm not, like you say, Travis, I'm not getting rich off this. This is in many ways, I feel like my purpose. And so, just that little trick of how can I bring joy to somebody else today? Actually, that is where you'll find your joy. And it makes a difference if you can be that intentional. So, but that takes a massive act of will, because we are being beaten down every single day.
Yeah, it got me a little emotional there. And that's why I wanted you to say that ending there. Hold on a second. That was good. That was good. I just wanted this last thing, something that helped me, because I got some baggage. I got baggage, man, and it's very painful baggage that I'm always constantly trying to get through, right? I'm going to just say this one thing, all right? Unforgiveness, when we don't forgive, it will bind us and lock us and trap us to whatever the sin is. So, well done, Melody. That's how I was able to get myself out of the gutter, because I wanted to blame everyone. But first, what I realized is I had to forgive myself first. And the only way I was able to do that is through my obedience to walking out a path with God. I got my confidence because I had no confidence left.
Right.
I got it from my obedience. Anyways, that's a little bit of preaching. We're going to get out of here, Melody. I think that was a great talk. Obviously, there's a lot of turmoil. It's really impossible for us as citizens, normal citizens, to really get the full picture. No, absolutely zero people have the data, all of the data. We can't go to one place to get the truth. We got to go to hundreds of places, looks at hundreds of sets of data. And quite frankly, people are worried that we don't even know who to fight sometimes, Melody. And that's the worry. Like, I'm fighting the wrong people. I was fighting realtors. Well, some realtors aren't even, maybe I should have been training them how to do a better job. I don't know. I don't know who to fight. But I do know that community is everything. If you want change, you can't do it alone. And so that was great. And so please just join my Discord. It's free. Join that Discord, Melody. We want you in there. There's some spicy people. Like Johnny's in there, Jeff's in there, a lot of people in there. But anyways, I'm going to get us out of here. Melody, do you want to say anything else before we go?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, guys. One more time, well done, Melody, as usual. If you want to support her, we're not rich people. Go to her Substack. Subscribe to her Substack. You'll see a lot, or hear and read a lot more of her soul, her heart. She really cares about people. That's why I'm such, respect you so much as a colleague and friend, Melody. I mean, there's really no one that I've met quite like you. I mean, we've gone through hell and back. Both of us, you and I we got to the height of heights and we went to the lowest of lows. And now here we are. That's what you get. And I hope you guys like it. Now, other than that, if you guys can like the video and if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys know we wish you luck and we hope you win.